Jonathan, will you mind leading us opening prayer before we jump in?
Yeah. Our gracious God and our wonderful Father in heaven, we're so thankful tonight that you've allowed us to come together here. And we just pray to bless our evening tonight and our study together. And pray to just be with Alan and help him as he direct our class tonight. And help us to learn more from your word and just boost our faith, Lord, and give us more confidence and things that we've been assured of, that we've learned, and that we continue to learn in them. And just pray that you'll be with us and be with all the children tonight and the class teachers, that you be with them. We're so thankful for all that they do and teaching our young ones and bringing them along and helping them. And we just pray that you be with us all tonight. We ask this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, so the book of 3 John, we've got these twin books, 2nd and 3rd John. 2nd John, written to, do y'all remember who? The elect lady. And he was saying to this elect lady, look, there's deceivers out there, and you need to know how to deal with them. And he's writing 3rd John. Who's he writing 3rd John to? This is beloved Gaius, yes. Does anybody know the proper way to say that, by the way? Is it Gaius? Is it Gaius? We're just going to say them both, maybe every time, just so we know who we're talking about. It's his beloved, and he tells him kind of the other thing. Not that there's deceivers, but there's good brethren out there who have a good reputation. They're doing good work, and he's encouraging him to show love and hospitality to these. So we read through the first 8 verses, and we'll kind of start there. Make sure. I think he blacked it out. I'm going to push the button. Let's see. Maybe. There we go. That way we can all see. Yep. All right, so let's read just through verse 8 again. The elder to the beloved Gaius, whom I love in truth. Beloved, I pray that all may go well with you and that you may be in good health, as it goes well with your soul. For I rejoiced greatly when the brothers came and testified to your truth, as indeed you are walking in the truth. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in truth. Beloved, it is a faithful thing you do in all your efforts for these brothers, strangers as they are, who testified to your love before the church. You will do well to send them on their journey in a manner worthy of God, for they have gone out for the sake of the name, accepting nothing from the Gentiles. Therefore, we ought to support people like these, that we may be fellow workers for the truth. And that's kind of where we ended there in verse 8, talking about how to be fellow workers for the truth. Did anybody have any thoughts through verse 8 to kind of catch us up, or anything you thought about after we ended?
Well, just going back and reiterating on verse 8, therefore we ought to support people like these, that we may be fellow workers for the truth. That idea, that koinonia, that sharing in the spreading of the gospel. We may not be the ones who are personally engaging in Bible studies with other people. We may not be the ones who are, baptizing people necessarily.
Yeah.
But we can be fellow workers with those that are by helping and supporting and encouraging and playing that role of support.
That's right. And I think it may have been you that this is kind of that idea of bidding Godspeed, is pushing everything towards that goal. You were involved in it. And so that's fellowship. It's being a fellow worker. So let's do this. Give me a description of Gaius that you see in the text. How would you describe this man, this beloved?
He was doing all he could as far as spreading the truth, because people were
Mhm. So you said two things there. You said my first two. He had a good reputation. People were talking about him, and he was walking in the truth. He was doing the right things. What other things can be said about Gaius? And we're going to compare him to some of these other characters we read about. How was he, what was it he gave John? He gave joy. He caused great joy. And what was the specific example of his faithfulness? What was he doing to these strangers? What was the word we kind of used to describe that? It's not where sick people go, but it's hospitality. That's right. So he was hospitable. He was encouraged to continue supporting those gospel preachers. So it'll be kind of interesting to compare him with some of these other folks that we've got coming up. So we'll read 9 through, we'll just read 9 and 10 right now. I have written something to the church, but Diotrephes, who likes to put himself first, does not acknowledge our authority. So if I come, I will bring up what he is doing, talking wicked nonsense against us. And not content with that, he refuses to welcome the brothers and also stops those who wants to and puts them out of the church. What do y'all see here? Describe that. Yeah.
He sounds like a lot like the Pharisees. They want leadership. They want the highest place, and they don't care about if you know Jesus or if you honor Jesus as he ought to be honored. They want to be honored over him.
Status.
Right.
Yeah, the honor. Go ahead.
Is there a missing letter that John wrote that maybe we don't have?
I think there must be, but why would you say that?
In verse 9, I wrote something to the church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it can be presumed that he wrote something to the church prior to this that just was not passed down to us in the canon. And God's providence decided that wasn't something we needed.
For what it's worth, there's a study note in my Bible that says second and possibly third John were written on what they considered to be a standard size sheet of paper, one piece of paper. And that's why they were so short. He wanted to get it all on one piece of paper that was approximately 8 by 10 inches.
Nice.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it kind of goes along with the length of both of these, 2nd and 3rd John.
Mm-hmm. It is almost, and he also makes in both of those letters, I want to be there. So it sounds like he's saving a lot of his conversation for when he's there. Almost like, I hope this letter finds you before I do, kind of thing with this one. Anything else stand out to y'all through 9 and 10? Best I can tell is these are little house churches. And Gaius and Diotrephes don't necessarily belong to the same house church, but they're around Ephesus, is my understanding. Anybody is welcome to correct me on any of this, by the way. But it's best I can tell that they could be part of the same group that meets and worships together, but not necessarily. But it is to the church in Ephesus. It's actually to Gaius. This is a personal letter to Gaius, but I don't think anything's personal. It seems like he knew good and well that this is going to be passed along. because he tells what he's fixing to do. He says, I'm going to bring up what he's doing, talking this wicked nonsense. Does anybody else have, Dwayne's not in here, anybody reading from the King James Version tonight? New King James. What does New King James say? So if I come, I will bring up, my version says what he is doing. What does King James say?
It says, I will call to mind his deeds which he doth, rating against us with malicious words.
Yeah. So yours uses deeds. King James says works. So deeds and works. What are the deeds and words? What?
Words.
They're words. Would you normally call a word a deed or a work? It's just interesting that those are words are works. These are evil works, what he's doing. And it's just words. But they are, he's going to bring up these works. There's a lot.
So in verse 9, where that phrase, who likes himself first,
Mm-hmm.
it's one word that literally means the love of being first.
Mm.
And so it's not just, oh, I want to have, the best place in the church. It's a love that he wants to put himself even ahead of Christ. And it's only natural that he has to reject the authority of the Apostle John,
Mm-hmm.
because if he accepts their authority, then he can't be first.
Correct. Yeah. What's the word? This is in several versions. That for being first. Preeminence. Yeah. So, and I wish I had it here in front of me. Oh, I do good. Diotrephes. I said that was a really cool name, and I still stick with that. One of the coolest names in the Bible, I think, but it's pretty rare. It means Zeus reared nursling of Zeus, but it was only to be found in noble families. So maybe he was used to being preeminent, if he came from that type of background, had that kind of status already. So he might have already been apt to be arrogant or proud, a little insensitive maybe. So it's preeminence is what he says. And then you mentioned rejecting authority. Am I out of order there? Where's that preeminence? Yeah, here we go. But it's the love of being first. So what's another word that we could talk about this preeminence, wanting to be first? What's a commonly used word for this? I think all sin is really tied back to this in some form or fashion. We're in the month of it. Yes, pride. It's the queen of all vices, the vice of all queens. Pride is his love of being first that led to all of these other sins. And do we see that spirit of Diotrephes today? We even see it inside the church. Can we see it inside the church? How so? 'Cause I haven't seen anybody kick out any missionaries.
I think whenever someone, they see the church as just grounds for bolstering their ego. That's kind of the idea. It's like the church is not the bride of Christ anymore to them. It's not God's people. It's just a position to be used, or a potential position to be used
Mhm.
to feed my pride. So that's people can use that position, and it's really, it can be really obvious that they're doing it for selfish reasons, but sometimes not so much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do I say it? There's people who honestly stand for the truth,
Mhm.
And it's kind of like the opposite of calling out the false teacher, which is 2 John. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I kind of go back to what I said last Sunday. This is kind of the antithesis of it. It's like in 2 John, you have someone who's a false teacher, false teachers clearly,
Mhm.
and he's pleading with this woman not to receive them in their home. Now we have someone who is, you have these teachers of what's good, and he's speaking evil of them, making them out to be the bad guys,
Mhm.
and probably making up stuff about them. I don't know. It just says speaks against them with malicious words,
Yeah.
bad mouthing them. I mean that could certainly happen today. Unfortunately, it can happen amongst preachers. And I've seen it happen amongst preachers too. Preachers could be some of the biggest gossips that there is. And sometimes, we let our ego get the best of us.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, that's just a specific example.
Did Jesus ever address pride or this desire to be first? Anybody remember?
I'm thinking about when James and John's mother came to Jesus and said, "Would you make my son, prominent in your new kingdom?"
Mhm.
And he said, "Whoever wants to be prominent." Then he gives a story about serving others. Now, what's the connection there?
Right.
Yeah. So if you want to be prominent in Jesus' kingdom, serve others.
Yeah. So he did. She came to him. That's what I was thinking of. It's Matthew 20. She says, "Hey, I want my sons, one to sit at your right hand, one to sit at your left." And he does. He goes into teaching about humility and service and not desiring. He says, the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. It shall not be so among you. But whoever will be great among you would be a servant. Whoever would be first among you must be your slave, even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, to give his life as a ransom for many. This was obviously not Diotrephes. He wanted to be served, and he wanted anyone out of his way if they disagreed. How was it that who was casting, it says, and puts them out of the church? Who was doing this? This is not a trick question.
It says he was doing it.
It says he was doing it. Diotrephes was doing it. Can I throw somebody out of the church? Well, go ahead.
Well, what I was thinking, I like an example right now. With all the little churches today and whatever, sooner or later you're going to have an elder that's going to become, this is my church.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's kind of the way I think of him. He got his way up there, and now this is mine.
Correct. That's exactly what I'm feeling from it, is that he is somehow like the head of this group in some form or fashion. And that's obviously not the pattern, I don't believe. Go ahead.
Several years ago, I was interviewing to work with this one congregation, and after we met with them, and we were considering working with them, a brother calls and says, "Hey, I hear you're thinking about going here. Just a heads up, such and such a brother is usually a really big problem." And I said, "Well, the elders didn't seem to
No, I'd agree. And that would fit, I think, with his other writings, this attitude of love. With great power comes great responsibility. I think you can use that. If you are gifted in influencing people, you should be able to use that for good. Go ahead.
Another thing that comes to mind is when Jesus spoke to the Pharisees,
Mhm.
and he says, "You shut up the kingdom of heaven against men, but you neither go in yourselves, or don't allow those who are entering to go in." So they're not even seeking themselves, but they're trying to be a stumbling block for others.
100%. He definitely spoke out against the scribes and Pharisees both. Was that in Matthew 23?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
23:13.
Very good. Yes, sir.
You asked, how can you put people out of the church?
Mhm.
And that's an interesting question, because it's like, well, what do? Handcuff them and kick them out?
Mhm.
It's like, no. How are you able to kick somebody out of the church? Well, usually you have to have help.
Mhm.
You have to have the consent of other people. And, I mean, here's the doctor fees in 3rd John, but it's not the first time we've run into this type of person in the Bible. We just studied David and Absalom. Absalom is a case study in how you kick somebody out.
Mhm.
He kicked his own daddy out.
Yeah.
How did he do it? People would, he would flatter people. People would come up to him and say, "Oh, wish someone could plead your case." He
Mhm.
would take them and hug them and kiss them.
Mhm.
He went, and it says in this way, he won over the hearts of the people.
Bless you.
And that can happen where someone has such a, a manipulative personality that they like a magnet
Mhm.
that draws people to they get people on their side. And that's a lot of times how they end up, that's how you put someone out of the church. And that's the way a lot of it done today. Like, when you see that done, I mean, sometimes it may be a person standing at the door saying you're not welcome here.
Mhm.
Like, I guess that could happen.
Right.
But most of the time it's going to be that there are going to be games that are played.
Yeah. There are those that are going along with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he is attributed the lion's share of the blame here, but there had to have been those that agreed with the decision, who went along with it, maybe
Yeah.
because it was the easiest thing to do,
Yeah.
just to go along with him, or maybe they trusted his judgment. Go ahead.
Well, with people across time, we don't like conflict. And sometimes it's easier to just go along with the diotrephes. It feels easier to go along with the diotrephes. Even though he's poisoning the church, I think of Gideon, or Absalom, as John was saying. With Gideon, his own family, his own village, when he went to pull down the Asherah, he had to do it at night because he was afraid of the people. And when they found out what happened, they were ready to kill him. And his own father had to stand up and protect him because, people don't like the boat being wrong.
Mhm.
And people will fight to keep the boat from being wrong,
Mhm.
even if it means doing wrong. And so it's taking someone like John to write to this church, point out what he's doing.
Mhm.
It doesn't seem like Diotrephes is alone, but he's certainly leading it and causing a lot.
So let's describe, similar to how we did with Gaius, let's describe Diotrephes. How would y'all describe this guy? Self-centered? I like that. That may actually be what self-promoter is what I put there. But yeah, self-centered.
Yeah.
I didn't have near as many descriptors here. Let's see. Well, no, I did. Who was he not listening to? Who was he rejecting?
The apostles.
Yeah, he was rejecting. He was insubordinate, is what I put here. We'll talk about that more here in a second. I called him slanderous because he spoke nonsense. There's prating or prattling or something else. Some other versions said there. And he wouldn't receive certain brothers. He would cast them out. So I called that vindictive. He had something against these people. So does this sound like somebody Gaius should imitate? His beloved Gaius? Does he want him imitating him? No, of course not. He immediately issues a warning. He who does evil has not seen God. Don't imitate this. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this rejecting authority says he does not receive us. It seems incredible that this Diotrephes thinks so much of himself that he's going to reject the disciple whom Jesus loved, right? An apostle of Jesus Christ. Do we see this rejection of authority today? Do we see it in the church today? A rejection of the apostles' authority. How so?
They teach different than what the Bible says. They practice different than what the Bible says.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about when someone comes on and makes it about them
Mm-hmm.
instead of about following God and following Jesus.
I agree with that. Did you have your hand up, Chris?
It's so funny that so Gaius is the beloved of John. Diotrephes literally means cherished of Zeus.
Ah,
So it's just this funny parallel
yeah.
that you have someone who's beloved of John versus beloved of Zeus.
Beloved of Zeus. No, I did not know that.
Oh, that's good.
That's cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this authority, there's a ladder step, right, of authority. We've got God, who inherently has all authority, but he delegated all that to his son, and he delegated some to who? The apostles. And he gave them all authority. Right, or God gave Jesus all authority so that he could do that. And the early church continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine, in the apostles' teaching. So this last spirit of Diotrephes, he was, I called it slanderous and vindictive. A whole lot written about this. It can be babbler, trifler, to berate idly or mischievously. There's a whole lot of ways, but obviously the intent is to be hurtful, is to be evil. Do we see this in the church today? How so? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just thinking that it kind of shows us that the end result never justifies the means. So Diotrephes, definitely has some control or ego or to see, but he may be thinking what he's doing is right. And we can't act ungodly in the hopes of having a godly result. We can't act sinfully in the hopes that our outcomes will be righteous.
I will amen that. Yeah, ends never justify the means.
That is so true. So true.
But I'm not positive he didn't know. You know, maybe he convinced himself he was right. In fact, that would be easy for us to.
And I think we sometimes see that a lot, that we think, you know, maybe not necessarily us per se, but I feel like there's people that, you know, they say that they're a Christian and they carry this chip or, you know, this ego in how they approach or how they can be a lot like
And I could see that. A lot of people's Christianity is marked specifically by them going around telling everybody else how bad they are. That is how. That is the definition of their Christianity. Is, you know, XYZ is a sin. That's why you shouldn't do it. I see another hand. I thought there was another hand. I'm sorry, I missed you though.
Can I just say this now?
Yeah.
Christian's comment, I know it's late. In the Christian's comment and your title of this, we just went together so perfectly. Tale of Two Christians.
which we're going to have a third one up here in a second. So, and I didn't change it to 3.
Well, going back to what we were saying, especially with verses 11 and that we can be really good at lying to ourselves. And we were just talking about Diotrephes maybe lying to himself, thinking he's doing this because we're trying to protect the church or whatever. John tells them, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. We may think we have this good outcome planned, or we're trying to work towards this good, but we're taking evil methods, evil modes to get there. It's not going to work out the way we think. And so we may not think of imitating evil in terms of, oh, well, this person's engaged in open sin and, just obviously rebellious to God. But do we engage in slander to maybe weaken the position of somebody else? Do we engage in gossip, or are we taking worldly methods, trying to pretty them up in our minds so that we can get what we want to know?
Yeah, one of the scariest verses in the Bible, Matthew 12:36. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. And he had a lot of careless words. Yeah, he serves as warning. He who does evil is not seeing God. We'll see in this next verse. So how would we... No, that's not right. Let's read 11 and 12. Was there any more comments on 9 and 10? All right. Beloved, do not imitate evil, but imitate good. Whoever does good is from God. Whoever does evil has not seen God. Demetrius has received a good testimony from everyone and from the truth itself. We also add our testimony, and you know that our testimony is true. What do y'all see here?
Kind of less said about the guy that did good than what did evil. And I think that's because goodness can just speak for itself.
Maybe. We will describe Demetrius in a second. Whoever does good is from God. Whoever does evil has not seen God. So can evil do good? Can a bad dude do anything good? Yeah, of course. I mean, Hitler bad. I'm on record. Hitler bad. Did everything he do, was it all bad? Did he do anything that was good? I think he probably did something good. He patted somebody on the head or something, right? I mean, Hitler bad. I'm on the record. Hitler bad. But I think this is talking about our walk, right? Because that's the way he was describing Gaius. That's why he was beloved. That's why he had a good reputation. Did Gaius do good all the time? Was he always good? Right, of course. But does that mean he has not seen God? No, it's describing this walk. Whoever does good, whoever has this walk is good. Yeah.
I've noticed there's a lot more political discussion online as we proceed toward this coming national election. And, there are people that don't see that one candidate has done anything good. Everything he's done is evil. There are a bunch of other people that think another candidate has never done any good. Everything he's done is just bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, both, there's some good and bad in all of it.
That's a fact. So what are some of the...
Not sure about Hitler, but
Right.
maybe.
No, we're all, just for YouTube's purposes, we are all anti-Hitler here, YouTube.
There's going to be a disclaimer underneath the YouTube video.
That's right. I'm going to go back and put Hitler bad. So what qualities do we see in Demetrius that make him this commendable fellow? I only wrote down 2, as it was short.
Everyone who knows his character has only good things to say about him.
He's the good reputation. Connected with that, I wrote that he was offered as this pattern for Gaius. But he did. He had a good report from all brethren. He had a good report from the truth itself, and then from John and the apostles. That's a pretty good resume.
And apparently he must walk in the truth, because number 11 says that not to imitate evil, to do what is good, and he does what is good as of God, and the next thing he's talking about is Demetrius.
Mm-hmm.
And give him a good testimony. So obviously he must walk in the truth and do what's good.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. So these are the, I say 2 Christians. There's 3 names listed here, but I think there's 2 types of Christians still that are listed there. In our service, in the kingdom, we may have to serve from time to time in opposition to some of our own brothers. Will we or should we allow this to affect our service? How do people allow this to affect their service? I think we see some here. And this is kind of what you were talking about, how did some of the brethren with Diotrephes allow it to affect their service?
Apparently they gave into it and let him run rampant, roughshod however he wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that affected their salvation and their standing with God?
I don't know, but it must have hurt some of them's conscience.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can say.
Well, I hope so.
Jesus said he don't show partiality, so neither should we. And kind of like the ones that they were more worried about being put out of the synagogue than following God.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Book of James talks about that, some right there, that showing partiality. So, of course, we should consider, when we look at these names, and we see what they're known for, we should obviously consider our own example that we're setting. And we should also consider who we're imitating, right? I think that it's one of the coolest things about God, knowing that we would need each other, putting us into these groups. And one thing we can do is look to each other for examples. But know that there are people behind us that are going to be looking at us too, for better or worse. But I do agree, and I had some notes here, and I didn't have them in front of me, but I do think Diotrephes was successful because of some of the weakness that you talked about, that they let Diotrephes do this. There was maybe a climate of complacency or cowardice is the words I chose there. Maybe that's unfair. I wasn't there at the time. But they definitely let them get away with this type of domination.
Verse 12, there near the beginning, where he received good testimony from everyone, but it also says he received the truth itself. So there were people that were seeing that he was bound by the truth,
Mm-hmm.
which actually gave them saved.
Right. Well, I think he's making that statement even more solid. He's like, it's not just y'all who are seeing, it's not just these people that are saying he's good. The truth itself shows that he's good. Very good.
One more thought came to mind was that when you get baptized, you're added to the body. And you would think that John, being an apostle that had seen Jesus, and you wouldn't think that Diotrephes would be being so the way he was toward that.
think so. Being that so close to when Jesus was walking.
These two had to be really close together, it's like, so everybody knows everything. Because he's right in Gaius, Gaius, but he has to know both of them.
Yeah.
Say, here's your example, not this one.
Yeah. So this is the last thing, and I'll just leave you with it to do your own research. It's a bit of a rabbit hole. So some people go to this, and they use this not as their central passage, but as a supporting passage for churches not being autonomous. To where really, and I know it's just, I don't even know if I can accurately describe where they're getting this, but they're saying this is really John's an elder over here and with this other main church, and this is authority for them to depose Diotrephes and install Demetrius, that he's going to take the place. Anyway, I'll let you do your own research there. Did any of y'all get that from what we read, though?
No.
Okay, I didn't either.
No more than you get it from the Apostle Paul writing in 1 Corinthians chapter 5 and telling them, get the guy with the sexual immorality out of there.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
next time and I'm not there,
Mhm.
I'll be there in the spirit. Deliver such a one to Satan. Like,
Mhm.
that's just the authority of the Holy Spirit through an apostle. This is scripture too. This is
Right.
scripture. So it carries with it a higher weight than just elders in a local church
Mhm.
telling another church what to do.
Yeah. And I don't even think, and it's kind of what you're talking about, Chris, I don't even think John is saying that he's coming in and he's going to throw out Diotrephes. I still think it's the group there that has the obligation to church discipline.
Yeah.
Because
John says, if I come, I'll bring to mind
correct.
what he's doing. And so
He's going to make it evident. He's going to show the error. Yeah. Well, let's read this last couple verses, and we'll end. I'd much write to you, but I would rather not write with pen and ink. I hope to see you soon. We will talk face to face. Peace be to you. The friends greet you. Greet the friends each by name. Any big takeaways from those last three verses? His conclusion there.
Face-to-face communication is the highest form of communication between humans.
I will agree with that. If COVID taught us nothing, it taught us that, right? I would agree. Well, thank y'all so much. One last comment.
it's interesting that he uses in verse 15 the phrase, the friends. And greet the friends each by name. In other letters we read about brothers or beloved,
Mhm.
and it just usually bypass the word friends because the other terms that Paul or John uses kind of subsumes those.
Mhm.
But I think it's also important here to recognize Gaius is John's friend.
Yeah. I didn't even. It escaped me as well. That is interesting. Thank you.
Before we have the invitation, we'll sing number 69. Number 69, let's sing. What a friend we have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Have we trials and temptations? Is there trouble anywhere? We should never be discouraged. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Can we find a friend so faithful who will all our sorrow share? Jesus knows our every weakness. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Are we weak and heavy laden, covered with a load of care? Precious Savior, still our refuge. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Do thy friends and ties forsake thee? Take it to the Lord in prayer. In his arms he'll take and shield thee. Thou wilt find a solace there.
Bill Belichick. He's the former coach of the New England Patriots. Has been in the news here recently. People have been poking a little fun at him. He was caught on camera, this is some time ago, leaving somebody's house, and it finally came out that he was leaving the home of a 24-year-old former cheerleader who he got to know when she was 23, but this is apparently his girlfriend. Bill Belichick is 72 years old. So especially in today's depraved culture, you'd think that there would be a ton of guys just congratulating the old fella on getting a nice, attractive young girlfriend. But most people out there, surprisingly, just make fun of him. They just make fun of him. Some people find it a little gross, but most people find it just absurd and laughable. And just funny. People are laughing at him for having a pretty girlfriend. And this just demonstrates the inescapability of the moral order. This guy has everything. He's one of the winningest coaches in professional sports history, a Hall of Fame coach for sure, a ton of money, obviously very famous, a lot of accomplishments, and now he's just the target of all these jokes. He's the target of the jokes specifically because he's doing something that he is bound to think is pretty cool. But that's only in his own mind. He's indulging himself. He's seeking pleasure. And it's not even that he's doing something that is broadly, in our society anyway, considered evil or degrading, but he's just doing something that's just so indulgent, so decadent, it diminishes him and makes him look ridiculous, laughably so. There's no way you see this couple out at a restaurant and think they have a ton in common and a lot to talk about. You're going to see that, and you may feel bad for her, or bad for him, or bad for both, and you may just laugh. Even the cackling hens on The View are making fun of them. No offense to hens. It's a bit absurd, and obviously so. You can have all the money, fame, accomplishments, but you cannot escape the moral order. It's going to be there. We may say, once I get this much money, well, I can do whatever, or once I get this much. No, you cannot escape it. The moral order is there whether you want to acknowledge it or not. King David must have felt invincible, extremely wealthy, very accomplished. Saul killed his thousands, David his 10,000s. The story of his relationship with Bathsheba, maybe it caused a similar stir. Who knows? We'll pretend it did. But Bathsheba, depending on what you look at, she's pretty young. She's a pretty young lady. We'll call her 18 years old. Most sources have her at around that age. But she found herself entangled in this scandalous affair with David, who was, we'll go with 60 here. There's a lot of different ages. But regardless, it was also a pretty significant time span, especially considered the shorter life expectancy. But who knows, just imagine, perhaps the people of that time would have found the situation ridiculous and absurd too. Laughable. David, this king, this figure of authority, was supposed to set a moral example for his people, for his subjects. However, he decided to pursue his own desires, indulged himself, seeking this pleasure. But imagine the tabloids. We can't wait for the royal wedding. Did you hear this about King David? He's trying to rewrite the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not covet unless she's young and beautiful. King David's got a new hobby, robbing the cradle. This episode of King David's love life is a bit like a soap opera. It's got cheating, scandal, and murder. He got caught doing something so indulgent, so decadent, it diminished him, and it made him look ridiculous. It must have. Laughably so. And her being a younger woman, obviously that was the least of the problems with this affair. She was the wife of Uriah. A scandal surely became even more pronounced with his death. All of the circumstances surrounding Uriah's death was surely seen as indication of David's corruption, this abuse of power. And perhaps maybe that fueled further mockery and scorn towards the king. So don't leave here saying, well, Alan said it's a sin to be in a relationship with somebody 50 years younger. That's not the point. I didn't say that, although it's weird. That's not the point. In both cases, we see individuals who had achieved great success, fame, power. They seemed to have it all. However, their actions revealed, no matter how successful, no matter what you got, nothing can exempt us from the moral order that governs society, particularly not the moral order ultimately set forth by God. We're all subject to the moral order established by God. We cannot escape it. We must align our lives with God's plan for humanity. We must live with integrity, seek to do righteousness in all that we do. Everything else is vanity. And people will probably laugh at you. But I'm not really looking to save you from being the butt of any jokes here. I'm wanting to have my own soul secure with eternal salvation. And I encourage you to do the same thing. So I hope that you and I can reflect on our own lives, our own choices. Are we walking in alignment with God's moral order? Are we seeking to fulfill His will? Or are we constantly just seeking to indulge ourselves in our own desires? So commit yourself to God this evening. And if you need to, if you believe in Him, if you're willing to repent of your sins and confess that Jesus is the Christ, the water's ready for you to be buried with Him in baptism, raised to walk a new life that honors Him. So if we can help you in any way, we beg that you would do so right now. Come as we stand and sing.
Why do you wait, dear brother? Oh, why do you tarry so long? His Savior is waiting to give you a place in His sanctified throng. Why not? Why not? Why not come to Him now? Why not? Why not? Why not come to Him now? What do you hope, dear brother, to gain by a further delay? There's no one to save you but Jesus. There's no other way but His way. Why not? Why not? Why not come to Him now? Why not? Why not? Why not come to Him now? Why do you wait, dear brother? The harvest harvest is passing away. Your Savior is longing to bless you. There's danger and death in delay. Why not? Why not? Why not come to him now? Why